What's up, guys, and welcome back to Gabe Miller Music. Today I want to do a quick little video talking about why you should make a lot of music. And this might already be obvious to some of you, but for a lot of beginners, I've seen the conventional wisdom be spend a lot of time perfecting a few tracks instead of making a ton of tracks. And I think this can be really harmful to your progression and harmful, ironically enough, to the quality of your music. And the opposite, making a ton of music, can actually be extremely beneficial. And I've experienced this in my own production journey, and I've seen other people experience this as well, both in music and in other art forms. So, without further ado, 3 reasons why you should be making a lot of music. Reason number 1, and by far the biggest reason, is practice. You don't get good at something without practicing. That goes for sports, that goes for creative endeavors. So if you are starting a lot of songs and then don't bother finishing them, well, you've practiced the starting part, you haven't really practiced the finishing part. You haven't gotten familiar with the process of kind of knowing when a song is done, and knowing when to tweak it and when to leave it alone, mastering, arranging even. To a degree, a lot of us get stuck in the dreaded 8-bar loop. So maybe you'll end up with a bunch of high-quality 8 to 16-bar loops, but nowhere for them to go and no real skills developed to make them go anywhere that's worth listening to. So you need to practice the entire process. Commit to finishing songs and try to do it quickly. And there is a bit of fear involved in this that I've definitely had. Basically, this 8-bar loop, when it exists in its own little finite form, is kind of perfect. And the fear is if you go into try to arrange it and maybe do some more mixing and mastering on it, you'll screw it up and you'll make it suck. However, the only thing that sucks more than potentially making this flawless little chunk of music a little less cool is no one ever hearing it because it never is turned into a song in the first place. And if you repeat the entire song making process over and over again frequently, you'll get good at the process a whole lot quicker than you will if you elongate that process, spending endless hours laboring over one song. Reason number 2 that you should be making a lot of music. You don't know when inspiration is going to strike. I've had some times where I sit down with the intention to make a banger, and I do, and that's great. I've also had some times when I've sat down with the intention to make a banger and nothing happens and I make something mediocre and trash it and move on. However, the thing that happens most often is I sit down with the intention to just tinker around a little bit and I end up making something I'm really proud of. Inspiration can often strike when you don't expect it. It depends on like what time of day it is, what your mood is, what you've been listening to lately, what gear you're working with. All of that kind of stuff all collides in your brain at times that you might not necessarily be able to predict. So if you're constantly putting yourself in the situation to create, or at least to tinker and experiment, you're much more likely to generate inspiration a lot more often. Inspiration doesn't usually just spring up out of nowhere. You've got to get yourself in the habit of having ideas. And finally, reason number 3 that you should make a lot of songs almost comes down to probability. Basically, all of us are gonna make some songs that just really aren't that great. Maybe they're just mediocre, they're not that memorable, they're kind of boring, or whatever. And then every now and again, you hit upon something that is truly something special. You have a memorable hook, you have a good mix, you have some kind of unique sound design, it all kind of comes together and you have something that you're really proud of by the end of it. So for an arbitrary guess of what song ideas of mine make it and what don't, I'd say probably 60% of the stuff I start ends up getting finished and turned into something that I use, and then 40% just gets trashed. If I don't make that many songs, given that ratio, I'm not going to end up with that many usable songs afterwards. However, if I make a lot of songs and that percentage still applies, I still end up with quite a few usable songs. And that's the way it's ended up working out for me. I make a lot of music, some of it garbage, and then some of it I've either hit him on something that's anywhere from pretty cool to something actually special. And the amount of time that something special can take can vary wildly. Burnout I wrote in a couple of days, and that's a track in terms of like this pop song composition that I'm really proud of. Whereas other tracks that I've ended up scrapping, I spent weeks on. So the more songs you make, the more you kind of get those bad ideas out of your system, so to speak, and the more likely it is that you make a bunch of songs that are actually something worth listening to, that you then can compile into an album or an EP or a mixtape or something like that. And another side benefit of this, and I guess this is like a reason 3.5 why you should make a lot of songs, is that I really like being able to look back at the past few months, past couple years, and see a big body of work to look at and go, this is kind of proof that I've been using my time in a way that reflects what I actually care about. Because it's easy for us, especially those of us who are extremely busy, to, on our off time, just sit around and watch YouTube or whatnot. And that's fine, but it doesn't necessarily produce anything of value, and really it's not as fun or fulfilling as actually spending my time making music. I just really like making music. I really like experimenting with lots of different styles, and I want to do that as much as possible. So putting a goal on that of making a lot of songs, put some structure on that, and in the process brings you all the benefits that I just talked about. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to watch a video I did on balancing life and music to make sure you actually have the time to make a lot of songs, you can click or tap up over here. And if you would like to subscribe, you can click or tap down over here. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will be back with a new video next week. Peace.